Shana Tova.
Regular.
Shana Tova, welcome to those who are joining us here in our sanctuary and those who are joining us online. We join together in thanking God for the gift of just being together. The words of Hine Matov.
Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov shevet achim Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad.
On this day of Yom Kippur, we light a Yortzeit candle in remembrance of our loved ones. On page 9, a meditation. The human spirit is the lamp of God, searching out what lies within us. Guided by the flame of conscience on this sacred night, we search for truth. Shine your light upon us as we strive to serve you. May we find safety in your faithful love. We light the flame of healing and forgiveness. On this atonement night, we give thanks for love. It's my honor to call forward Edra and John Tepper to light our Yontif lights. V'tzivanu lahad l'ikner shel Yom HaKippurim. Page 14 in our machzors. Yom Kippur, the Jewish people's festival of the soul, and Kol Nidrei, its sacred portal. A night of deep emotions, a night, as the psalmist wrote, to rejoice with trembling. Rejoice at the sound of Kol Nidrei, rhythmic words of release from vows, oaths, and promises to God we fail to keep. We tremble at the melody, music of spiritual amazement. It fills us with awe as we stand before God and Torah. Rejoice that we stand together, strengthened by community in this hour of shared weakness and humility. We tremble, for tonight we confess our flaws, admit our imperfection, and acknowledge a power far beyond our understanding. Rejoice that we commit ourselves to great endeavors because we feel so deeply and think so nobly. We tremble, for we find that our ideals are far greater than our ability. Our promises surpass our might. Rejoice in the freedom that is Kol Nidre's true gift, the freedom to begin a new year without fear of failure, to aspire to be God's image in the world. We tremble because we are mortal. Rejoice in our gratitude for life. Rejoice with trembling and enter Kol Nidre to face our humanity. Page 16, we rise. My honor to call the names of presidents of our synagogue who have served our congregation. Marty Neilah, our current president, Ben Braunstein, Joe DiMaggio, Michael Falkove, Marcia Glick, Fred Kunkin, Brian Land, Marie Pindis, Jeff Pliskin, Debbie Reckler, Cheryl Segal, Erwin Tantliff, Josh Werber, Lisa Weiner. If you'd come forward to hold the Torah scrolls.
Asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah shehecheyanu v'kiyemanu v'gianu lazman hazeh.
You may be seated. With the beautiful music and rituals of Kol Nidre in our hearts, we rise together for the Baruch Hu, page 22 in our Machzors. Page 24, we pray together. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your great name fills the universe with majestic might. Your word creates twilight and dusk, as your wisdom opens the gates of night. Your discernment separates the changing seasons and causes the passage of time. The stars arrayed across the sky reveal your design. You roll out the cycle of darkness and light, shaping day and night. You sweep away day and carry the world into nightfall, setting day apart from nighttime. You are God of all we can perceive and all that is beyond our perception. Living, eternal God, be our sovereign to the end of time. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. Blessed are you, Adonai, creator of twilight and dusk. Page 26.
El Chai v'Kayam, Tamid Yimloch Aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Hamariv Aravim. Ki hem chayenu ve'orach yameinu, uvahem negeh yomam. Al tasir mimenu leolamim, Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael.
You may be seated as we continue with the V'ahavta, page 30.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'beitecha u'belechtecha v'derech u'shachbecha u'chumecha u'kshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha u'ktavtam amezuzot beitecha u'visharecha.
We continue now, page 38. Truth and faith, these are fundamental to our existence. God alone is their source, and we are Israel, a people of God. Our sovereign saves us from tyranny, redeems us from its violence through countless wonders, from its brutality through great feats beyond measure. We are Israel, a people of God, the giver of life, who would not let our feet give way, the maker of miracles for us against Pharaoh, of signs and portents in the land of Egypt, the one who brought our people Israel from its midst to enduring freedom. Witness to this heroic might, the people thanked and praised God by name, freely accepting the reign of heaven. Then Moses and Miriam and all Israel sang to you this song of utter joy.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot hosef ela, malchutecha.
We turn now to the prayer for the evening, the Hashkivenu prayer, page 42 in our Machzors.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom vehamidenu shomreinu lechaim.
Hashkivenu
In the darkness
Adonai
of the night,
Eloheinu
when I'm scared
Lishalom
to close my eyes,
V'hamidenu
won't you ease my
Shomreinu
troubled mind?
L'chaim. Hashkivenu
May you guide us
Adonai
on our way.
Eloheinu
Walk beside us,
Lishalom
keep us safe.
V'hamidenu
Hear these humble
Shomreinu
words we pray. Hashkivenu.
Ufros aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha
In the shadow of your wings.
Ufros aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha
In the morning breeze. Hashkivenu.
So much heartache,
Adonai.
so much hurt,
Eloheinu.
so many hunger,
Shalom.
so many search
Hamidenu.
for your shelter
Shomreinu.
and peace on earth.
Lechaim.
Hashkivenu
Hashkivenu.
Adonai
Adonai.
Hashkivenu
Hashkivenu.
Adonai
Adonai.
Hashkivenu
Hashkivenu Baruch atah Adonai Hapores sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim.
Page 45 in our Machzors, the Chetzi Kaddish.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah Be'alma divrach yirutei Ve'amlich malchutei B'chayechon u'b'yomechon u'b'chayei dechol beit Yisrael Pagala u'v'zeman karif ve'yimeru amen Yehi Shemei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'l'almei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yitramah v'yitnasei v'yitadar v'yitala v'yitayalal shemei tikudisha b'richu leila u'leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiron be'alma ve'yimru amen.
We rise together as a congregation for the Amidah.
Adonai sefatai tivtach ufi agitei latecha Adonai open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise.
We pray the Amidah silently or take these moments to be alone with our own thoughts and prayers. You may be seated as we continue with our prayers in English. Together we pray, page 74. God who is ours, God of all generations, to you we are grateful forever. Rock and protector of our lives, your saving power endures from age to age. We thank you and tell the tale of your praise, your power in our lives, your caring for our souls, the constant miracle of your kindness. Morning, noon, and night, we call you goodness, for your compassion never ends. We call you mercy, for your love has no limit. We call you hope, now and for all time. And for all these gifts, God of majesty, may your name come to be blessed and praised, our gratitude a daily offering until the end of time. Inscribe your covenant partners for a life of goodness, and may all life resound with gratitude and faith in praise of your name. God, you free us and strengthen us. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha u'lecha na'eh lahodot. Blessed are you, Adonai, whose goodness deserves thanks and praise. A prayer for peace, page 78, the words of Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech Adon l'chol hashalom. Ki atahu melech Adon l'chol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam.
A contemporary song, the words of Lonesome Road.
Walk down that lonesome road all by yourself. Don't turn your head back over your shoulder, and don't stop to rest yourself till the silver moon is flying high above the trees. If I had stopped to listen once or twice, if I had closed my mouth and opened my eyes, if I had cooled my head and warmed my heart, I'd not be on this road tonight. Carry on, never mind feeling sorry for yourself. It doesn't save you from your troubled mind. Walk down that lonesome road all by yourself. Don't turn your head back over your shoulder, and only stop to rest yourself when the silver moon is shining high above the trees.
We turn now to the Vidui on page 82. Together in English. Our God and God of all generations, may our prayers reach your presence. And when we turn to you, do not be indifferent. Adonai, we are arrogant and stubborn, claiming to be blameless and free of sin. In truth, we have stumbled and strayed. We have done wrong. We continue on page 86. Again, we recite the Vidui, the long confession. Together in English. The ways we have wronged you deliberately and by mistake, and harm we have caused in your world through the words of our mouths. The ways we have wronged you by hardening our hearts, and the harm we have caused in your world through our careless speech. The ways we have wronged you through lies and deceit, and harm we have caused in your world through gossip and rumor. The ways we have wronged you by judging others on failure, and the harm we have caused in your world through disrespect to parents and teachers. the ways we have wronged you through insincere apologies, and harm we have caused in your world by mistreating a friend or neighbor, the ways we have wronged you through violence and abuse, and harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty in business. For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement. The ways we have wronged you openly and secretly, and harm we have caused in your world by losing self-control. The ways we have wronged you through sexual immorality, and harm we have caused in your world through consumption of food and drink. The ways we have wronged you by giving in to our hostile impulses, and harm we have caused in your world through greed and exploitation. The ways we have wronged you through cynicism and scorn, and harm we have caused in your world through arrogant behavior. The ways we have wronged you by hating without cause, and harm we have caused in your world through offensive speech. The ways we have wronged you through a slanderous tongue, and harm we have caused in your world through selfish or petty spirit. For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement.
Am I there for those who need me? Giving of my heart completely. Have I been caring and have I been patient? Have I forgiven without reservation? Do I take my days for granted? Treated others even-handed? And shown compassion to the homeless stranger? Have I been humble before my Creator? Ve'al kulam, ve'al kulam, Elohai slichot, ve'al kulam, ve'al kulam, ve'al kulam, Elohai slichot, ve'al kulam. Have I treaded lightly on this planet? Have I held fast to your commandment? And have I raised my voice against injustice? Have I been giving or have I been selfish? Ve'al kulam, ve'al kulam, Elohai slichot, ve'al kulam, ve'al kulam, ve'al kulam, Elohai slichot, ve'al kulam.
Silach lanu, michal lanu, kaper lanu, ve'al kulam. Silach lanu, michal lanu, kaper lanu, ve'al kulam, ve'al kulam, ve'al kulam. Elocha slichot, ve'al kulam, ve'al kulam, ve'al kulam. Elocha slichot, ve'al kulam.
We turn now in our Machzors, page 98, Shema Kolenu. Hear our voice.
Shema Kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chus v'rachem aleinu, v'kabel berachamim u'b'ratzon et tefillatenu, hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem.
We rise as we turn to the words of Avinu Malkeinu, page 115 in our Machzors.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu Vaneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu Vaneinu, Ki ein banu masim. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed, ve'hoshienu. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed, ve'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu Vaneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu Vaneinu, Ki ein banu masim.
You may be seated. Before I begin my sermon, I just want to, first of all, of course, thank our Cantor for lifting our hearts and our spirits in a beautiful Kol Nidre. I know she's just getting over a cold, and we're grateful that you can still lift our prayers to heaven so easily and so effortlessly. And I want to also thank, of course, Zisl and Elise for accompanying our prayers and offering that beautiful musical piece to help concentrate and focus our spirits. And of course, Bonnie and Bruce, members of our congregation and our board, for lending their voices to our prayers. We are so grateful. On this Kol Nidre, I'd just also like to give a shout out to Jen Armis. Jen, can you wave your hand or stand up or something? So this is Jen Armis, our religious school principal. So not to embarrass her, but many of those gathered here don't know her, and I just thought to introduce her. We're grateful for all of your hard work. Cliff, nice to see you too. So we're grateful. Cliff's waving now too. So we're grateful for all of your hard work and your devotion, especially to our students. Just a reminder, tomorrow morning we have 2 morning services. They're the same thing. You don't need to come to both. And actually, that's not really recommended unless you're the Rabbi and Cantor and Zisl. So 9 a.m. Or 12 p.m. The only difference between the two is that the 12 p.m. service does have the traditional Yizkor prayers added to the end, but I would urge everyone to come to the 5 o'clock Yizkor Neilah service for a creative and more meaningful Yizkor prayers at that time. And at that time, we will observe the ritual. I invite you to bring a stone to leave at the front table in remembrance of your loved ones or friends on this Yom Kippur. For those who still have energy, also, as I always do on Yom Kippur afternoon, have a Q&A and discussion at 3 o'clock. So if anything that you thought I should have talked about and didn't talk about, or anything perhaps you might disagree with, 3 o'clock is your opportunity to shout and scream at the rabbi, or just to have heated discussions and whatever you like. 3 o'clock. I'm going to begin now, if that's okay. One of the highlights of visiting Israel is visiting Jerusalem. And one of the highlights of visiting Jerusalem is visiting the Old City. It never gets old, so to speak. And there you can walk through the thin alleys of the Arab Shuk, squeeze past Christian pilgrims going to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, or run ahead of Muslim worshipers rushing to afternoon prayers at Al-Aqsa Mosque. You can grab a fresh squeezed orange juice from a vendor or argue over the price of T-shirts with a hawker. You can wait in line for a falafel, explore the archaeological remains below the city streets, and along with thousands and thousands of other Jews, touch the stones of what remains of the ancient temple. There you can place your hands on the Kotel, the Western Wall. To get to these sites, one typically enters the city through Zion Gate. Other times we walk through the Jaffa Gate, the busy Jaffa Gate, or even through the Dung Gate, depending on actually where the bus can find parking. There are actually 8 such gates to the Old City. Dung sits adjacent to the Arab town of Silwan and is where the trash was taken out from the city in ancient times, hence its name. The path to Jaffa Gate, that before 1967 was no man's land, is now lined with a shopping mall. And Zion is still pockmarked with bullet holes from the fierce fighting that occurred there during the 1948 war. I'm particularly fond of this gate. It retains its ancient bend so that you cannot walk straight through. And I often have to jockey for position with a car that wants to make its way out. Long ago, this bend served as an added defense against invaders. And just as the cars cannot speed through the gate, so too foot soldiers had difficulties running straight through. This bend is also reminiscent of the judicial benches built into the gates during ancient times. It is where people took their cases and judges sat, rendering judgments. It is a common biblical motif and one that is taken up by many of our prophets. Amos shouts, "Hate evil and love good, and establish justice in the gate." He meant this literally. Judgment sits at the edges, justice stands at the periphery. And I have been thinking about gates and the space they occupy in our lives. They are the boundary between us and them, between our perceptions of safety and danger. They are the liminal passageway through which we render daily judgments about what is okay and what is not. We organize our lives around such gates. In the St. Louis of my youth, I grew up in a subdivision called Lac du Bois, a fancy-sounding French name for Lake of the Woods. Recall that it is not, as we say, St. Louis, but St. Louis, or that the small town in which Lac du Bois is located is not pronounced as we do Crève-Coeur, but the French Crève-Coeur. Later, I can tell you the story about the Native American princess and her broken heart for which the town is named. But these days, I'm thinking about how intimidating those subdivision gates might appear to others, and how all these names and all this language make some insiders and others outsiders. There is judgment in a name, and there is exclusion in language. And even though the subdivision's gates were always opened, they remained locked to some. This evening, I wish to meditate on the inadvertent gates we too often construct. This Yom Kippur, this is the confession I offer. In Jerusalem's old city, the gates are obvious. In our lives, they are hidden to those who sit inside. We need to shine a light on these gates and acknowledge them. So let us dwell on these gates, and most especially on those who provide us with unknowing reassurance, but to others, exclusion. This all became glaringly apparent to me as I prepared for a wedding this past June. Every wedding is, of course, different, and every couple is unique and every ceremony joyous, but David and Max's wedding was unlike any I had officiated at in my 30-plus years of rabbiing. David and Max are gay, and they are two grooms. It is not that I refused to officiate at gay or lesbian weddings years ago, but no one had asked, and no congregant had invited me to do so. And I was grateful for the invitation. We studied the ceremony together. I pored over the tradition's words and language that I have nearly memorized. Mi adir al hakol, mi baruch al hakol, mi gadol al hakol, hu yivrech chatan v'kala, who blesses the bride and groom. I may have unlatched the gate, but David and Max threw it open. The ceremony's gates are everywhere. Chatan v'kala, bride and groom. They appear on nearly every single page. Should I say re'im ha'ahuvim, loving companions? In its place are chatan v'chatan, groom and groom. We spoke openly about their meanings. We decided to interchange both terms. But what about the vows? The list appeared lengthy. They forgave my gaffe when I, in one of our preparatory meetings, asked, how many people are in the bridal party? The language of yesterday is carved in our brains. It does not, however, have to be etched in our hearts. I rejoice in their love, and it was a splendid and joyous occasion. So mazel tov, David and Max, and thank you for the teachings. I'm still left wondering, how many locked gates are arrayed before us? How many does our inheritance arrange while we sit unknowing and unaware within its walls? Our language and how we idealize relationships can be doorways to openness or locked gates turning others away. And our tradition's efforts to make us feel like insiders, it may make more people than we realize feel like outsiders. I'm holding on to the symbolism of the chuppah. It is open on all sides. We usually explain it this way. The chuppah is open to symbolize that a couple's home should be welcoming to others. It should include not just friends, but family. It should most especially be open to the new family each partner is joining. The couple is now one family and no longer two. But perhaps we should see the chuppah's openness in a different manner. It is open to all who wish to sanctify their commitment and love. It has no gates. It offers no judgments. Reverend Victoria Safford, an author and minister, writes, our mission is to plant ourselves at the gates of hope, not the prudent gates of optimism, which are somewhat narrower, nor the stalwart, boring gates of common sense, nor the strident gates of self-righteousness, nor the cheerful, flimsy garden gate of everything is going to be all right, but a different, sometimes lonely place, the piece of ground from which you see the world both as it is and as it could be, as it will be. Open the gates of hope. Every loving relationship offers promise. Place your faith in hope. Too often we say things like, that's not really marriage, or that's not what God wants. But how can we be so sure? We shut out others to our own demise. When we close those gates, we banish hope from our own souls. Back to the neighborhoods. Recently, I installed a Ring doorbell. It's awesome. I can see when packages are delivered. I can get notified when someone is at my door, even when I'm not home. I did not know about another one of its features called Neighbor, but it confirmed my love-hate relationship with technology. And before I figured out how to turn these Neighbor notifications off, I was receiving frequent alerts that said something like this: man carrying plastic bag, and when I didn't answer, he tried to enter my backyard. He lurked around my house for 45 minutes. Or the following: man carrying green bag and smoking and walking into yards and snooping around property. Everyone is suspect. Keep the doors locked. Scan the property for anyone who does not look like us. Don't get me wrong. I am not trying to critique the need for us to have security or ignore the frightening increase in anti-Semitism or the daily occurrences of violent gun attacks in our country, or to suggest that if you're home alone, you should fling the door open to every stranger. But not everyone on the other side of the camera or the other side of the gate is dangerous. We are so worried about letting the wrong people in that we may be keeping the right people out. Just because they're on the outside does not mean they do not belong on the inside. Just because they're on the other side of our gates does not mean that they are a threat and that we should not welcome them in. The Torah is clear. Love the stranger. V'ahavtam et hager. And who is the stranger? It is the person who we feel is distant but stands nearby. It is the person who sits just outside the gates. That is why judges sat at the edges of the city to echo the prophets. It was to affirm how we respond to those on the periphery is a measure of our righteousness. We have erected filters, whether they are the tradition's eyes or technology's cameras, through which we look out into the world. Take down those gates. We should caricature less. We should judge far less frequently. If we take the time to sit across the table from others who are not yet our friends, we might fill our hearts with hopefulness. And I am certain our souls will respond with gratitude. They will shout words of thanks. A story. A few years ago, when traveling with Ari in Laos, I know not your typical rabbinic field trip, Ari convinced me not only to meet him in Laos, but also that we should sign up for a hike through the jungle. The destination for this hike was a Hmong village. I was quite trepidatious, and I offered up many roadblocks before saying yes to the hike. I had a multitude of worries, chief among them the availability of gluten-free food in the jungle. Ari opened the gate, and we walked through. Soon after the start of the hike, another traveler heard Ari's unmistakable Long Island accent and asked, "Where on Long Island are you from?" And we answered, "Huntington." Turns out Rob grew up in Huntington and had just moved to, of all places, Missouri. And a friendship with Rob and his partner, Melissa, was born. Nowhere in our planning did we imagine the following: go to Laos, hike the jungle, discover a fellow Long Islander, and become longtime friends. I almost did not go. The gate is opened, serendipity walks through, and the soul is renewed. When we open those gates, venture beyond their edges, and push past our fears, we encounter the unexpected. We welcome renewal. Too often fear stands in our way. It need not rule our souls. We forget gates are meant to be opened. On this Yom Kippur, let us open the gates. On this day when we seek to better ourselves and when we recount most especially our frequent misuse of words, let us acknowledge those hurtful comments and inopportune phrases we so often utter. Let us work to throw these gates of "you don't belong here," or "that's not what marriage really is," open. These gates exclude some we are meant to include. These bolted doors offer judgment where understanding and compassion will better serve not only others, but us as well. We are very good at using these gates to keep others out. We are very good at using language to exclude people. We say things like, "that's forbidden," "this is not your place," or "get off my property," "they make me uncomfortable." Too often we think gates are only meant to be closed. We think they're all about protecting us. They're meant to be opened. They are intended as invitations for welcome. Open the gates to the unexpected. Serendipity restores the soul, and hope is burnished by compassion. A community is a hodgepodge of differences. Let's sit like the judges of yesteryear at the periphery, but rather than offer their judgments, let's wave people in. Let us embrace others, even if they don't always look like us, or talk like us, or think like us, or act like us. Soon we will be celebrating the holiday of Sukkot. We are supposed to welcome everyone into these temporary booths. The sukkah has no doors. Its walls and its flimsy roof through which we must be able to see the stars in the sky must all have a temporary quality. This temporariness enhances the sukkah's openness. It feels akin to a tent. The sukkah cannot be so strong so as to be able to withstand a storm. When it rains, we are commanded to leave the sukkah and go inside to our house. The sukkah is too open to stand up against bad weather. Without doors and sturdy walls, without a roof that keeps the rain out, things do feel flimsy. Openness feels threatening. And so what do? We bolt our doors, we erect formidable defenses, some in plain sight, and others not even seen by ourselves. We turn our focus on these locks and these gates. We soon forget how to even open them. We forget how to unlock them. We lose sight of how to invite others in. We look within and only without through lenses and peepholes, and our vision narrows. We lose sight of those who sit on the edges. How do we unlock the gates? How can we embrace the openness of the sukkah and not lose faith because of its apparent flimsiness? Back to Jerusalem. Rabbi Elazar said, "Since the day the temple was destroyed, the gates of prayer are locked, and prayer is not accepted as it once was. Yet even though the gates of prayer are locked, the gates of tears are never locked. One who cries before God may rest assured that these prayers will always be answered. Tears open the gates if only we can hear them, if only we can see the pain that sits right nearby. Hear the cry of our forefather Isaac. I imagine that when Abraham was about to sacrifice his son Isaac on Mount Moriah, on the very spot where the temple once stood and below which we can now touch the stones of the western wall, Isaac shed tears as he looked up at his father, who was clutching the knife lifted up above his neck, ready to sacrifice him. Abraham was so zealous, So zealous in his pursuit of what he believed to be God's command, the angel had to shout his name twice to stay his hand. Avraham, Avraham, Abraham, Abraham. Finally, Abraham looks up from his son and saw the ram which he then sacrificed in place of Isaac. Perhaps this was God's intention all along. Isaac represents the hope and promise of the future. How could God want Abraham to sacrifice his son? If you don't look, if you don't open the gates of hope, you cannot really see. After slaughtering the ram, Abraham names the place Adonai Yera'eh, God sees. Too often we are like that zealous Abraham, slamming those gates shut, unwilling to see the person standing nearby, and unable to see the tears before us, and we close the doors of hope. If we don't see the person standing on the periphery, then we too are likewise blinded by what we believe. If we don't see the gates that bar others from feeling welcome, then we are just as zealous. How do we help to make these gates more visible so that we can unlock them? How can we no longer be blinded by zealousness? There is only one answer, and that is to sit with others and listen. It is to learn how others feel. It is to imagine how our words might sound in their ears. It is to open with compassion and invitation rather than exclusion and judgment. According to the tradition, when the Messiah comes to rescue the world, the Mashiach will first come to Jerusalem and begin the messianic redemption in the Old City. And through which of Jerusalem's gates will the Messiah enter? Sha'ar Harachamim, the gate of compassion. And here's the funny thing about that gate. Today, that gate is literally blocked up. It is filled with stones from floor to ceiling, all cemented together. The gate of compassion is sealed shut. And that seems the perfect metaphor for our age. We spend so much time erecting gates in our effort to keep others out or to say people don't belong, rather than the few moments it takes to unlatch them. Gates are meant to be opened. The one gate that can unlock hope is blocked. The gate of compassion beckons if we but unlatch it. We are called not to judge. We are asked to welcome and invite. Only then will the Messiah enter. Only then will redemption occur. Only then will hope return to our hearts. We turn now to our concluding prayers. We rise together as a congregation. Aleinu can be found on page 116.
Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, latei gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kigoyei aratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, begor aleinu kechol hamonam. V'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai shemo echad.
We take a few moments to pause, remember our loved ones in our own hearts and souls before turning to the words of the mourner's Kaddish. Together on page 122. Yikadal v'yidkadash shemei Rabba, b'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich machutei, b'chai achon of yom achon, b'chai dechol beit Israel, b'gala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam omei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudashah b'richu, La'ela minko berchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, damiran v'yalma v'imru amen. Yehei shlomo rabba min shemaya, v'chaim alena v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom v'mamav, hu ya'aseh shalom, alena v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved, and let us say amen. You may be seated.
Oh, say shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
We conclude with Adon Olam, page 126.
Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra, Le'nasa, Mechev Sokol, Azai Melech, Shemo Nikra, V'yacharei, Kichlot HaKol Levado, Himloch Nora, Vehu Haya, Vehu Oveh, Vehu Yeh, B'tifara. Adon Olam Asher Malach V'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Le'nasa Mechev Sokol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Acharei Kiklot HaKol Levado Yimloch Torah Vehu Hayam Vehu Hoveh Vehu Yeh B'tifara. Adon Olam Asher Malach V'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Le'nasa Mechev Sokol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Acharei Kiklot HaKol Levado Yimloch Torah Vehu Hayam Vehu Hoveh B'tifara, vehu haya vehu hoveh b'tifara. Vehu echad ve'ein sheni lehamshilo lehachvira ve'li reishim בלי תכלית ולא עוז והמשרה והוא אלי וחי גואלי בצור חבלי ביצרה והוא ניסי ומנוס לי מנת כוסי ביום מקרא בידו הפקיד רוחי ויתישן ויהירה ועם רוחי גביעתי אדוני לי ולא יירא אדון עולם השם עלה בטרם כה יציר נברא ויהי נשא וחפשו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא אחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא ויהי נשא וחפשו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה בתפארה והוא היה והוא הווה בתפארה והוא היה והוא הווה בתפארה והוא היה והוא הווה בתפארה
Gemar Chatima Tova, may we be sealed for good.
So what did you decide? Oh, yeah. Good. Oh, I can't wait to hear. That's great.